Hello, can you hear me? Okay. Welcome everybody to this first introductory AMA for 2024. We plan to do at least 4 community-only AMAs. As you know, we've been doing a lot of guest AMAs with featuring developers that are developing on top of PowerAgent. But this is just a pure community AMA. We haven't got a guest today. I'm joined by Vasily Sumanov, who's our Director of Research, and he'll tell you a lot about our most recent Gitcoin grants program. While we're waiting for more people to join, let me just, for those of you who don't know, PowerPool is a fair launch DAO, so there's no VCs. It's a global community. We develop and operate the PowerAgent automation network, which involves currently hundreds of keepers running our client to provide automation services on an increasing number of EVM chains. We have been for some time live on Gnosis chain. We are actually live on mainnet, and we have a clear roadmap to roll out across most major EVM chains. And each of those chain rollouts is going to be earning real native tokens for our validators. Our PowerPool is really a community that's about earning, and our validators earn. And now that we have the automation network more or less production ready, we're focusing now on attracting developers to develop automated services that run as templates on top of PowerAgent. And we're very, very keen to provide proof of concepts to developers to say, look, you can earn. You don't need to go out and find a project. You don't need to have VCs. You don't need, egotistical founders, and you don't need silly tokens. You just write services and run them on PowerAgent. And we're going to be developing a dApp store to push that vision. So really, whether you're a validator or a developer, or ideally a few of you or both, this is a great community. And with the rate of innovation going as it is, and the bull market arriving, there are tremendous opportunities. And really, the purpose of these AMAs is to get more and more of you involved in running validators, writing services. And as we'll be describing, the key to getting more people involved is to make it easier for them to read through the documentation, access our forums, and get help from people who've already done it. And that's really the theme, I think, of 2024 is growing the size of the community by making it easier for people to join. Once people see it, they're going to get it. And once they get it, they have to learn and learn fast. And we just have to make that as easy as possible and be as helpful as possible. So with that, I will introduce Vasily, our Director of Research, and he'll start off, I think, by talking about the new Gitcoin grants program. Vasily?
Yep. Nice to meet you. Thank you for our traditional introduction to PowerPool and to the earning options in PowerPool. So I think that we will start not with the Gitcoin, but with the Gitbook, because the Gitbook was significant.
Sorry, my mistake. Gitbook, right?
Yeah. It over the last month, and so the mainly technical parts of it, of course, all the instructions, node runner guides, job creation guides, etc. So we made a big job for that. So and now we are also finishing some minor edits of the general pages, like the dashboard links where you can see all the statistics, how to use Explorer to track out all the jobs, executions, slashing events, and all this kind of stuff. So, but anyway, the main part of Gitbook is finished now. So, and we want to announce the Gitbook contest. So, what does it mean? It means that now you can. So, if you're from PowerPool community, if you're running a node, or you create some jobs, so you have some experience in that already. So you can go to the Gitbook, check out the instructions, check out the pages, and if you see like some improvements there, so you can improve it and provide the like suggestions, make a new page, for example, or provide some edits. You can get prizes. So we have 2,000 US dollars for the prize pool. So it's, I think, a quite big amount for some, instructions stuff. So, and yeah, if you have some ideas how to make these instructions more like easy to users, more readable, so just make them better if you think so. So you can contribute and get your reward. So it can be several $100 for your suggestions, and I think it's fair enough uh, for such kind of of job. So if you are not runner, you can make the instructions better to everyone and at the same time earn a bit from it. So we will publish a little article with all the details of the contest, with all the price table, with everything, with all the stuff that you need to know. So, and you will be able to start right away to contribute. And I think it's quite interesting option because, yeah, as I said before, the solid Gitbook is very important for PowerPool because we need to acquire new runners, new job creators, and if all the instructions, all the examples will be really good enough for average user, it will be really good. So I think this is the first point that I want to share. So if you have some questions, please ask. We also will make an article, as I said before, and if you still have some questions about some details, uh, you can DM me or make some comments on Twitter. Also, we will create a special page in the PowerPool forum, so you can share your edits there, your ideas, and make the overall log like transparently. So uh, we plan to make all the awards based on all these like public submissions, so everybody will be able to read any kind of submission, see what kind of work was rewarded. So if you have some questions, you can also ask them. So we will try to do it in the most transparent way possible. So the next topic is the PowerPool's new use cases. So at this moment, we are working with Partitura to integrate our DCA strategy to the Partitura UI. So it means that you will be able to create your DCA strategy on Arbitrum for buying Ethereum. And as an option, you can also immediately convert this Ethereum to the wrap staked Ethereum from LIDA. So it means that if you need to accumulate some amount of ETH on Arbitrum, you can do it effortlessly using the DCA strategy. You don't need to know how to code. You don't need to know even the contract addresses, anything. So you just launch the strategy from the UI, deposit some Ethereum, and it works from the smart contract factory. So yeah, it will be the first case of like quite user-friendly UI for the non-technical users, I think. And if this pilot will go well, and I hope it will, we will add also limit orders and some other templates. So it means that at this moment, so yeah, the main, I think the point of complexity for a user is that you need to configure your job in the PowerPool user interface, and it requires, defining the stake range, making some target contract, a B, all this, it's not complicated if you're educated enough how to do it, but if you want just to press the button and get it work, of course, it requires you to, to learn a lot, and we want to avoid it because, as we understand, the automation is something that is needed by users that are not technically sophisticated. So it means that yeah, we need to provide like plug and play solution for them, like just one click, and this will be one click solution. Thanks for the Partitura integration. So we are collaborating with them a lot. We provided the code and some descriptions of the code already to them. So yeah, the first step is done, as I can say. So yeah, Gordon, you want to add something?
Well, I just want, first of all, as Vasily said, the Gitbook challenge, the forum for that is the forum. I mean, we need to get a lot more traffic going on our forum, and there's a dedicated page where people can throw out ideas and even collaborate on ideas, both as regards improved documentation, so forth and so on. I mentioned earlier that, or I made a mistake actually. I talked about Gitcoin grants. We actually do have also a grants program on Gitcoin attracting developers. So both things exist, but Gitbook is the new effort to improve our documentation. As regards use cases, if you look on the forum, you'll see I've posted some new thoughts about future use cases for PowerAgent, which are not to do with DeFi. And they're to do partly with proving this concept that a developer can just put up a templated service and get paid straight into their wallets. No need for a token, no need for a project, no need for founders, and no need for VCs. I think this is a game changer. We need to get it running, and once it's up and running, the world will get it. Trust me. And the other one that's more generic is that nowadays there's a lot of talk about the problems of deep fakes and fake video, fake audio, fake everything, all machine generated. And the conclusion is always, oh well, you need to secure it with a hash on chain. And oh, by the way, identity is the same. You know, everybody's fake, so now the only real people are secured with their identities hashed on chain. And then finally, there's the fact that a blockchain really is a calendar. Blockchain tells you exactly when everything happens in time. So if you put those things together, the content, the people, and the calendar, you have all the data you need to make lots and lots of interesting automated calculations. For example, when you think about the real world, you have an electricity meter, you have a gas meter, they're monitoring your consumption of something, but at the end of the day, there's a closed source proprietary database in the utility that sends you the bill, and you get a bill once a month. You don't, and as Web 2 comes across towards Web 3, this problem of how do we track usage, given that the data all has to be on chain, how do we track usage? How do we measure usage? How do we bill for usage? This is, in my opinion, a very important use case. Now, I don't know the answers. I don't know how PowerAgent can step in and supply the primitives that are needed. But what I would say is that this use case is at least as big as DeFi if we can get it right. So the first step is again, to put up proof of concepts, to propose something, get a grant, and go out and say, yeah, this is the first cut on the primitives of how PowerAgent will help people send bills or collect their money, or, you know, it's an extension of the idea that a developer who puts up a service should get paid. There's no reason to use tokens for all this. There's no reason. If you put up a service, you should get paid directly. Now, we all know that that didn't happen in the beginning because there was no automation, and nobody was going to go out of their way to automate the payment of a tiny micro royalty to the developer who developed the service. But PowerAgent changes all that. It's a new paradigm. So we need to get it out there and working, because I guarantee you, once developers see that they can just spend a few hours in their spare time and get their money straight to their wallet forever, passive income, they're going to do that. And they're going to break down our doors to get to the documentation. We're going to need to make it easy for them. But at the end of the day, our validators, right now the DAO is skewed. We have more validators than developers. But all those validators need to pitch in and attract developers. Because why? Well, because every single one of those automated services is generating fees for the validators. Okay? So it's a win-win all the way around. And as I said before, I do not know the answer. What I do know is that not a lot of people are paying attention to this because it requires automation. It's the same story with Power Baskets. Not a lot of people pay attention to Power Baskets because it requires automation. But we have that, so we can think now. If I start with a platform of PowerAgent, what could I do? How should it work? And I think it's tremendously exciting. There's lots of stuff that will work totally differently in the future, principally because you now have trustworthy decentralized automation. You did not have that in the beginning. Everything was manual. Not so now. So it's like turning the page on crypto and crypto development. And you know, I'm tremendously excited, but we need to start putting out proof of concepts that people can see and that work and that they can play with. Right. So Vasily, next we need to talk about the testnet. and where we're at with validators.
Yeah. Yeah, so regarding the testnet, so what we have now, we have more than 100 keepers on Gnosis chain. The testing on the Gnosis chain goes really well. So we have, as I know, maybe like 7 or 10 Gnosis chain validators. They're using PowerAgent for automating their rewards claims at this moment. So they started to create jobs, and these jobs really work. So it's possibly the first practical use case of PowerAgent so far. When of course, it's not DeFi, it's more about like the infrastructure for validators, but it works and people get value from that. But, I want to mention that the Gnosis chain is extremely cheap, so it means that you can automate almost everything and don't think about the cost at all. Don't worry about this cost because they're pennies, really pennies, or the like shares of pennies. So uh, we also have Cipollite running, but we're not paying so much attention to it. Some time ago, we stopped like DAO-funded jobs on Ethereum because Ethereum consumes too much gas, and it's just like, spending Ethereum right away without any real return of users. So we decided to not spend a lot of Ethereum for sponsoring some, technically sample like to to sponsor some like testing jobs on Ethereum, and we decided to allocate this Ethereum to Arbitrum because we see that it is much more like the chain can be much more popular in terms of automation. So, and the DCA strategy that I mentioned before will be also launched on Arbitrum. So it means that you will be able to test it out there using the Partitura UI. So Arbitrum is also under the like testing at this moment, but not not many people can properly run Arbitrum node. So this is the main bottleneck there, because the Gnosis chain node is really easy to run, and the Arbitrum node has a lot of issues. Even in our team, we had several crashes of Arbitrum nodes and corruption of the database. So we need to relaunch it, and it's synced very long. So yeah, the RPC infrastructure is not so reliable as we want it to. So there are also some decentralized RPC services that we also tested, uh, like DRPC or BlockPi. So we can suggest BlockPi for using. We can suggest BlockPi for using by our validators if you want to run a node, but you don't want to run an Arbitrum RPC because it's too complicated for you. You can try the BlockPi and start earning Ethereum on Arbitrum. So also we launched the Polygon, but the Polygon is even more complicated because first of all, the Polygon node is much more heavy than Arbitrum one, and it also requires a lot of knowledge to run. The second problem is that there are some technical issues on Polygon that we need to solve. First, so we found some bugs and try to identify them properly. So we are waiting for some additional logs integrated into the node to see how it works. So we also worked on launching Scroll and Optimism, but the Scroll and Optimism, they require us to develop our own verifiable random function. And since Optimism and Scroll, they don't have any kind of built-in source of randomness. So, and our verifiable random function is still under development. So yeah, it's not so easy task to do, I can say. So yeah, we are hoping that we will finish it soon, and after that we will be able to launch Scroll and Optimism. Also, we had a quite good positive discussion with Scroll team regarding some support on hackathons and events from the Scroll team when we will launch PowerAgent there. So they're waiting for us when we will launch it, and when we will also have the verifiable random function live there. I think that we will get some consistent support from Scroll. So they also possibly will use our verifiable random function for some other protocols that build on Scroll. So PowerAgent will also be not only the automation provider but also some infrastructure provider like Chainlink, for example, and other chains. So it can be also one new positive use case for PowerPool. So that can also bring more attention and community to us. So.
Well, Polygon is certainly attracting a lot of attention now because of their aggregation and their zero knowledge technology. So I'm hopeful that we can get the Polygon launch organized because they have a pretty you know, they have a pretty well-defined support system for bringing on board people like us.
Yep, but as I said before, the main issue with Polygon is that the Polygon node is quite heavy, and
Yeah.
we don't expect that a lot of keepers will be able to run their own full node of Polygon so far.
Yeah.
So possibly the decentralized RPC solutions will help with that. So, but it also requires testing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we're still waiting for some node improvements to proceed with Polygon testing. So our main activity, besides all this technical stuff for PowerAgent launch, was on the Partitura integration and on the BreadChain, because the BreadChain is also our ecosystem partner, and we've had several research calls with them. So now they're trying to build some automated curve pull strategy for
Mm-hmm.
their bread token. So yeah, we're also trying to help them with that. So now they will check it on the Sequoia testnet, and if it works well, they will launch it on the Gnosis chain. So we are very closely in touch with BreadChain. So regarding the Partitura, I said before that we're integrating with them, and I plan to add more and more templates there. So regarding the Daoism progress, I cannot say anything because to be honest, I don't know the latest news from them, so I need to check it out. But
Right.
they were quite slow development. Hopefully, they will accelerate it.
And also, in the past we talked to Neon. Neon is interesting because they settle on Solana and they provide a gateway to the Solana world. And the problem before with Neon was the random function, the randomness. We didn't have a source of randomness, but now we do.
Yeah. So Neon, I think it's very impressive chain for launching because it opens the gateway to Solana, as we talked before. So yeah, when we will have the verifiable random function done, I think we will also launch on Neon, of course.
Okay.
So no doubts for that.
Is there anything in particular we need to say about the VRF? I mean, is it actually ready to go?
No, no.
Does it work on any EVM chain?
So the main problem with VRF is that we need some elliptic cryptography there, and the library that we used before was not suitable for that. So we found some other libraries on JavaScript, and so we're working with it, but it's much more complicated than the initial library. So if you have some JavaScript developers in the community, we'll be happy to get some possible support from them. But yeah, we try to handle it on our own, knowledge at this moment.
Okay. All right. I don't know. Are we getting any questions in?
I think we don't have, but we can discuss some automation narratives. I think it's like a free talk on this AMA. So,
well, I have a question who's asking about IoTs like Helium and the others. I'm not sure. I don't know if the question is about billing or what, but well, I mean, IoTs is I think an area where we need to find out what is the best way to use PowerAgent with IoTs. But I haven't really thought about which IoTs would make the most sense. IoTs may or may not. I mean, you couldn't really launch an IoT if you didn't have your own sort of billing arrangement sorted out. It's kind of built into the IoT's network infrastructure. The kind of billing I was talking about is Web 2 stuff that it's coming across to Web 3 because they now have to work with on-chain validation of everything. But who knows? I mean, there may be synergies between IoT networks, but the IoT networks in general are not EVM, so we couldn't really run in conjunction with an IoT network. They're built from the ground up to do that, whereas the EVM wasn't. The whole reason for PowerAgent is that the EVM was incomplete. I mean, it simply skipped the whole idea of, we need automated execution of contracts. I don't know why that happened, but it happened. And that's why PowerAgent is the missing piece. But IoT guys, they build them from the ground up. And I suspect they've got their billing already sorted out. So my comments about billing and charging and are all confined pretty much to the EVM, because PowerAgent essentially makes the EVM more complete. Then,
Yeah, yeah. I think it possibly we can move to discussion of some automation narratives. What is really interesting going on in the space, and yeah, what will be the future narrative for automation? So, what do you think? Because we see all these agent layers risk-taking, so the industry is buzzing. We have a bull market,
yeah,
fueling
I mean,
up a lot.
a couple of things. As you know, I believe that the best way to ensure a heavy workload on mainnet is to launch power baskets. We're getting to the point now where TradFi ETFs are coming in, and the TradFis are going to want to push not just spot ETH, but they're going to want high yielding ETH. So it's only a matter of time before TradFi is pushing diversified baskets and restaking. A lot of people go, restaking is like a junk bond, and that's true. But also, junk bonds in TradFi are always bought in funds. You buy junk bond funds. Diversification pays a huge premium. It's really valuable in restaking tokens, LRTs. So I think there's a basket opportunity in LRTs even bigger than the opportunity in LSTs. And LRTs are actually extrinsic yield on LSTs. If you have LSTs, you can you can LP them if you're putting them in pairs with ETH and stuff like that. It's not too bad. You can lend them. But also now, if you have LSTs, you can restake them, and so part of the whole automation game is to automate the process by which a basket of LRTs is managed, and also automate the process by which a basket of LSTs manage their extrinsic yield on their LRTs. So that, in my opinion, would guarantee a massive workload on mainnet just launching that kind of thing. But that is actually the ultimate DeFi application for automation. And TradFi is going to end up trying to imitate that off chain. Who knows, someday TradFi might realize that our version is better than theirs. But that's obviously several years in the future. But nobody questions that these things need to be put in diversified baskets. It's literally not a question. There were lots of questions in the beginning about general baskets like the DeFi indexes and stuff like that. But the case with LRTs and LSTs, which, let's face it, that's the biggest DeFi value. By now, most of Ethereum staking is, at least half of it's getting turned into LSTs and LRTs. And so that's just vast. It's just some billions and billions and billions of TVL in the format of LSTs and LRTs. And that's going to continue. And TradFi is even going to buy them. And it's by far and away the biggest DeFi application for automation. And it also solves, as I said before, a big problem for us, because these kinds of baskets, they manage millions. And so the whole issue of fees on mainnet, nobody cares. It doesn't matter. And that means big fat fees for all of our validators running on mainnet. It just no longer becomes an issue about having enough fees to justify lots of keepers on mainnet.
I see some other questions.
Yeah, I'm trying to find I'm not sure where to see them.
Yeah, I see do you plan to cover other chains like Avalanche? Yeah, I think that you plan to cover all EVM compatible chains, all significant ones where some where some user base exists and where some automation is required. So of course, the Avalanche is also on the radar. So after launching the VRF, I think that Avalanche will be also in our plans.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I can see them. So here's the one question: would it be useful to have more basic node running guides like Keeper 101 for those who are not developers but want to start getting into passive income? Yes, absolutely. That's the purpose of the Gitcoin grants, is to pay people to write all that, and people who've been through it, people who've done it themselves. We're giving big grants for people who generate that kind of information because we need to widen our funnel. We need to make it easier to become a keeper. We need to make it easier to become a template developer. Yeah, and then the question about IoT I already answered, which is it has to do with EVMs more than anything else. Then we have a question about the academic research, Vasily, for random keeper selection, staking, and all the rest of these papers. So the papers are available on the project wiki. I know that.
Yeah. So let's discuss about academic research. So the first and key problem that we started to solve back in the days was regarding the staking and slashing mechanics. So the question was how to make the network fault tolerance to some kind of attacks and keeper misbehavior. And since the transaction signing is quite determined event, so you can always check is the transaction signed properly or not, and is it available on chain the transaction itself or not. So you can easily detect if the job was done or not, right? So the first point that we worked on was to create staking rules. So how keepers will, how many tokens keepers will stake, how the weighting based on the stake works. Also, we worked on algorithmic pricing, so how to bond the amount of keepers execution fees with the stake, because the bigger stake should correspond to bigger should correspond to bigger execution fees, of course, because the biggest stakes they possess bigger risks to node runners, because there is stake volatility. There is also the slashing the possibility. So if you will get slashed, you will lose more tokens than people with lower stake. So you need to be paid for this risk. And at the same time, if you paid for the risk, you have a bigger responsibility also. So we need to bond the risk and the payment. So this also was done. So the slashing was developed by technical team. So, and the slashing is also quite important part of the mechanism design. So at this moment we have a slashing epoch. So if keeper didn't sign transaction on time and properly, there is some other keeper that should slash him, and it's also based on slashing epoch, this rotation of slashers. So we also explored MAV, but we are not, professional MAV bots creators or like MAV protection creators. So our main approaches is to use flash bots and use some MAV blockers, RPCs that are available. So we try not to build our own MAV protection solutions. We try to use the best ones in the market and collaborate with other teams on that, because anyway, this Web3 building process is more about the cooperation and using the proper building blocks. No one needs to invent everything. So the ZK proofs and all stuff related to off-chain, conditions, computations, and resolvers is also under development so far. So, and we think that once it will be developed, it will provide a lot of new use cases related to off-chain computation. So, and we also closely monitoring some other projects in the ecosystem. And if there will be anything that we can use, we will use it and avoid building our own stuff on ZK, because of course it's complicated and requires a lot of time. So yeah, regarding the evolution particularly, so before when the PowerAgent was like even PowerAgent V2 in its first first test release was just a it was just a round robin based keeper selecting algorithm. So it was not a random, it was developed by technical team later. So now, so what you have now we have a random keeper selection, now we have slashing, now we have algorithmic pricing, and we almost developed the stake weighting. So it's not in production yet, but the majority of necessary stuff was already developed to have a bigger probability of selecting keepers with higher stakes for particular tasks within the staking range desired by the job owner. So yeah, the research provides a lot of improvements, and hopefully it will provide even more in the future. So if someone wants to also contribute to the research, we'll be happy to make some co-authorship of papers or maybe some simulations and other stuff. So we're open to that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a tremendous amount of research underpinning PowerAgent because to be really decentralized, autonomous, trustworthy, to get all of the features of our value proposition, almost every one of those features required research, and nobody else does any of this. Other solutions are centralized closed source solutions. They're just re-implementations of traditional architectures. They're not built from the bottom up to be blockchain native and match the decentralization ethos of the Ethereum community or the Ethereum virtual machine. So we were the only ones. There's nothing else like this, and there probably never will be. That's probably the most important thing you're ever going to hear me say. I don't think anyone else can do this as long as we keep up our growth and keep building the network. It just takes too long, and what that means, of course, is that if you're sitting there as a degen and listening to influencers and shillers talk about airdrops for the 955th L1, and Polygon talking about the millions of L2s that will run on Polygon, you start to realize that actually all these other things, there's way too many of them. And that the only chains that really are interesting are the service chains. And there's Chainlink, obviously, which is very, very broad and not optimized for automation. There's Gelato, which has become a rollups as a service, largely because they don't have anything like our automation technology. But these things are interesting because there will never be lots of them. And this is where the value accrues. This is what makes for good investments. Okay. Investing in something where there's 100 and there's soon to be 101 makes 0 sense. And that's why PowerPool is dramatically undervalued. People simply don't realize that it's extremely important. It fills a huge missing gap in the EVM, and it's the only one. So the next question we have is, can you see it, Vasily? It says it's about stability and robustness on the network. Keeper misbehavior, failure, basically slashing.
Yep. So mainly the robustness of the network is achieved by the staking and slashing mechanism. So at this moment, if keeper didn't sign a transaction on time or on condition, after some period, it's a small period while he has some time to still execute his job. But if he didn't execute it, the slasher who is selected in the slashing epoch can slash him and get a part of his stake, and at the same time execute the job. So yeah, and mainly that all the testing is to be sure that all the slashing that will occur in the future will be related not to the technical issues of the RPC or node software, but to real keepers misbehavior, because of course we found out that a lot of slashing events they are related not to real misbehavior of keepers. In the testnets, nobody wants to do any kind of attacks or something like that. It's mainly related to the RPC problems as before, to the non-software issues that also happen sometimes because it's a testnet. So and sometimes there are are problems with too frequent tasks. For example, if the block time of network is quite small and somebody wants to make some task execution really frequently, there is some delay with events receiving from RPC, for example, and keeper isn't technically able to execute tasks properly on time just because he receives the information a little bit later. Yeah, so we're working on it a lot, and in our Explorer you can see all the slashing statistics, and sometimes it tremendously grows, and this is mainly because of so that so we faced some RPC update events when the RPC version was updated, and this RPC new version works not properly, or the JSON output is not in the correct format, and the keeper node cannot receive it. So it's all the slashing now is mainly to the technical issues, not to the keeper's real misbehavior. So, but yeah, our job and the job of the community that runs all these keeper bots is to contribute the time and efforts into testing and finally solve all the problems that result in this like non-intentional slashing, I can say.
Yeah. Okay, and then we have a question about chain coverage, asking about chains like Avalanche and BreadChain. The objective is to go to all EVM, Ethereum Virtual Machine chains that we can, that that have a population and have usage. But don't believe Avalanche. I don't think is EVM. Maybe I'm wrong. And BreadChain, I don't know. Is BreadChain EVM?
As far as I know, yes.
Okay, so BreadChain, in theory, we can deploy on BreadChain.
Yep. But we need to develop the verifiable random function and deploy it on Scroll and Optimism first. This is the main focus.
I'm not. I don't. We are, in terms of the sequencing, it's complex because we have to look at technical factors on the one hand, and we have to look at maturity and demand for automation on the other, and that's the and sometimes also grants and encouragement and support that we get from the chain. So all those factors go into deciding which is the next chain and which is the next chain after that. But yes, in theory, nothing stops us from deploying on BreadChain. That's all the questions I can see. Can you see any others?
Nope. That maybe we can also share our view on the future of automation market. So, for example, I saw a lot of ZK projects that will enable off-chain computations. They are in the early development stage, so some of them are really close to be launched in mainnet. So this can be a really big step forward because we don't need to use our own off-chain computations for that, for example. This is what I see.
Yeah, I mean, we say that PowerAgent is an automation network, but actually closely related to that is off-chain computation. Obviously, there's a lot of logic to be executed that does not make sense to execute on-chain. And we're standing there with a service network ready to do that. My question is always about how heavy that makes the hardware. So if I'm a really modest guy and I start just running a validator on Gnosis chain, and suddenly we get a lot of demand for off-chain computation, will my hardware and bandwidth really scale? I mean, will I be able to earn?
So, sorry, it was a question?
Yeah, I was asking you.
Yeah, could you please repeat?
What I'm saying is, how does getting more and more involved in off-chain computation affect the hardware and bandwidth of our smallest, modest validators?
It's a good question. So it depends on what particular off-chain computations should be performed. So for the simplest one, so there are two types of off-chain computations as I see them. I'm not professional in some heavy computations, right? So it's just my view of a dilettante. We have some computations that are mathematically very simple, but they're too expensive to be calculated on chain, right? So, for example, the big linear matrix systems or something like that. So it is easy to be computed by any kind of keeper node. And the main goal of these computations to be done off chain is just to save on the gas fees. And I think that these type of computations will be wouldn't affect the performance of keeper bots and wouldn't require any additional hardware. And the other type is some really heavy computations. I don't know, maybe related to AI, maybe related to something really complex. And these, of course, will affect keeper bots. And I think that keeper bots don't need to do that. I think that it should be outsourced to professional players. For example, if you have some AI-related computations, the GPUs should do them, and there are a lot of protocols now developing that will make some computations for AI, right? So it's not PowerPool business at all. So I think that keeper bots will handle only like computations that are computationally simple for ordinary keeper bots computing hardware.
Yeah. Yeah, no, obviously we're not going to get into competition with BitTensor and people who have massive GPU farms and things like that. But I think the answer is that basic computations that just are expensive to do on chain is more than enough demand to generate fees on modest hardware. And obviously we just need a scheduling system so that people don't given tasks which are going to overwhelm their hardware.
Yep, I think that we can possibly we can wrap up the AMA if we don't have any other questions or thoughts on the automation. So I think that the future of automation, in my view, is in templates, in easy access of users. So, and I think that our integration with Partitura is a good first step for that.
Yeah, no, I'm totally bullish. I think that every day that passes, new automation requirements crop up. I've talked a lot about this whole issue of developers earning directly from their templates and getting a proof of concept of that going for a simple service. I've talked about the future of Web 2 having to find a way to bill for their services when they're using the chain to verify that the content is real, the person or the customer is real, and how much time and how much what value was actually processed to pull all that information off chain and charge one and credit the other. I think there has to be a role for automation in there somewhere. I don't know exactly what it is, but I think that's one. And obviously the power baskets, LSTs, LRTs, they're not going to go away. They're bigger than ever. TradFi is going to get in there. They're a huge source of fees, especially on mainnet, because these are big transactions going through, and they're going to feed a lot of money into our validators if we can get the baskets up and running. That's already a lot. I mean, plus of course all the basic DeFi use cases that we know about, DCA and liquidity management and all these things. So the problem is always we don't have any shortage of ideas or products or any of that. Our shortage is developers and a few validators on heavy node chains. So really the whole question is how to expand the community, get heavier node validators in, get more automation developers in. But I think the story that we have is very compelling. It's just a question of spreading it, just explaining it to everybody. And so this new program on GitHub, it's about putting all those thoughts into a format where people can read it and understand it.
Yep. Yeah, so I think that we need to proceed with building and update the community with all the new stuff that we plan to develop and deploy, and looking forward for the Gitbook contest. So we will share the article shortly, hopefully today, and if someone wants to contribute, you can also DM me with some ideas, and I will help you to navigate in the contest as well.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you everyone for listening. We will generate a template. You will have a link where you can send this to people. If you're not a developer, you're not a validator, there's still a tremendous amount of value you can add by following me on Twitter, liking things, forwarding things. I guarantee you right now, there's a bunch of developers out there who are working in projects that have no hope, and their time is just vastly better spent developing automation templates here. And it's just a question of getting them from point A to point B and explaining it to them. And anyone can do that, literally anyone. So help out. That's all we can really say, because the size and power of this community is a function of how many people are in it.
Yeah, so thank you guys. Thank you, Gordon. See you all in automated world.
Okay.